A young astronaut named Rhea regains consciousness aboard a space station that has landed on the surface of a planet the pioneer explorers have named Ash. She immediately realizes that she remembers neither her own name nor the circumstances of her arrival. An unexplained scar crosses her forehead. Nightmare visions swarm in her mind, and disembodied voices blame her for what has happened. A sharp alert from the ship's AI warns of an emergency hazard, forcing her to rise and restore the station's power supply and correct a system failure. As Rhea moves through the station, she is horrified to find bloody smears on the walls and floors. Soon she discovers the body of a fellow crew member, pulls a knife from the corpse, and continues onward, understanding that all her crewmates are dead. She approaches an open hatch, beyond which stretches a rocky landscape under a sky where flakes resembling ash fall steadily. Above her head, a massive portal of light gapes open, resembling a tunnel. In her mind, a man's name surfaces. Brian. Her breathing becomes labored, and she struggles to return to the station, where the life support system signals a dangerously dropping oxygen level. Rhea tries to make sense of what is happening to her, but distorted faces of her former crew flash before her eyes. Then, an abrupt transition to a pristine crew lounge, where young people laugh and play a game. Kevin delivers a pompous speech about prosperity, and Davis proposes a toast to Brian with 5 helpings of beans, prompting general laughter. The crew celebrates, believing that Rhea deserves the honor of being the first to step onto the newly discovered celestial body, for it is the first time in years of searching that they have found a planet with an almost breathable atmosphere. In reality, Rhea reaches the medical bay and patches a wound on her neck with a bandage, then heads to the shower, trying to piece together her identity and the events that brought her here. Later, she explores the station and finds the ship's log containing records of the atmosphere's condition and the pressure levels in various compartments. Judging by the video entries, she had been working with plants, but Rhea has no memory of this. Suddenly, the security system signals movement in Zone 1. Armed with the knife, Rhea heads toward the source and attacks a figure in a spacesuit entering through the airlock. The stranger calls her by name and asks her to stop. Seeing her hesitation, he introduces himself as Brian and explains that he arrived from the orbital ship after receiving a distress signal from here. According to him, Clark went mad, attacked the crew, and killed everyone. Rhea admits that she remembers only fragments, visions, and the attack by the woman. She has no idea what is happening, who she is, or where she is. Brian activates a medical drone, explaining that their expedition and spacecraft are named 7F. He realizes that Rhea's memory has been completely wiped, with even recollections of Earth missing. The woman is placed on a diagnostic table, and the medical bot begins scanning her body, while Brian tells her that the previous 6 similar missions had ended in failure. Now all of humanity's hopes rest on the 7th attempt, as Earth's resources are almost exhausted. If they succeed, they might be able to call this new world their home. At that moment, the Medbot's instruments penetrate the wound on Rhea's head, and seeing her in pain, Brian tries to encourage her. He explains that he was supposed to remain in orbit, serving as an observer for the base to react in time to any danger, which is exactly what he has done. Suddenly, Rhea recalls a bright object in the sky, and Brian confirms it is their mothership orbiting above. While the Medbot works on healing Rhea's wounds, Brian shows concern for her condition. Rhea confesses that she had used a medical patch, which causes her to feel strange sensations, as if it occasionally allows her to recall fragments of the past. Brian reminisces about how, during their journey, the team discussed their motives for joining the space program. Rhea had emphasized that it wasn't a sacrifice but a quest for answers to the questions tormenting the people of Earth. She was dissatisfied with the planet's present and willing to do whatever it took to help humanity. Brian notes that even with her memory loss, she remains true to herself and suggests she get some rest. But Rhea cannot shake the thought of Clark, who might still be alive. If so, her oxygen supply must be running out. She urgently needs to find shelter, as sandstorms here are extremely dangerous. The woman suits up and ventures out in search of her colleague. She remembers seeing a drone she had planned to operate before everything went wrong and hopes to locate it. As she surveys the terrain, Rhea considers the possibility that Clark may have been infected by an alien virus and lost her sanity, leading to the tragedy. While Rhea drags black bags filled with the remains of astronauts out of the station, Brian advises her to forget what has happened. The station is running on backup power, supporting only basic functions, and even the oxygen supply is nearly depleted. Therefore, they must leave the planet immediately. Everything else, including the causes of the disaster, no longer matters. Their first priority is to return to orbit, a task not so simple, as the shuttle's trajectory must align precisely with the ship's orbit. Concerned about Rhea's condition, Brian notices her fatigue. She too feels exhausted and decides to take a short rest. However, her gaze falls on Kevin's lifeless body, and in that moment, she envisions a gruesome, blood-soaked monster. The vision quickly dissolves, and Rhea rushes back to the ship, blaming the incident on exhaustion. However, almost every object that could serve as a weapon reminds her of the tragedy that recently unfolded. Rhea once again resorts to using a psychedelic patch. Later, the station is engulfed by a sandstorm. As she watches it unfold, Rhea realizes that her memories are beginning to return, and she informs Brian of this development. Suddenly, the artificial intelligence reports a decompression event. Donning their spacesuits, the remaining crew members head out to locate the breach, while alarms blare about critically low oxygen levels. Reaching the emergency compartment, they find signs that someone or something has been there. Hearing a strange noise, Rhea follows it and discovers a breach. But as she begins sealing it, she sees a distorted, grimacing face of Clark. Summoning all her strength, she fights off the nightmarish vision and completes the repair before returning to the living quarters. Brian speculates that Clark might have contracted some pathogen that triggered a mental breakdown, something akin to rabies. However, Rhea feels there are inconsistencies in his explanation. She is determined to uncover the truth and find Clark, but Brian reminds her that they have lost 30% of their oxygen reserves, and the next launch window will not open for another 5 hours. When Rhea insists, he warns her that any delay could doom them to death by suffocation. All their crew's efforts would be in vain. He admits he doesn't know what happened to Clark, but promises they will get to the bottom of it. Rhea retreats to her cabin, rewatching videos of her fallen comrades and remembering Kevin, with whom she shared a deep bond. Closing her eyes, Rhea suddenly finds herself standing under an open sky. A drone camera points at her before soaring upward. Looking around, she realizes she is standing in the middle of a blooming meadow, dressed in an elegant gown and adorned with exotic jewelry. Sunlight dances among palm fronds, and not far away stands Kevin. Before him lies some sort of pipe, and when Rhea peers inside, she sees a spiraling tunnel pulling her inward. Suddenly, Kevin cries out in pain. Rhea sees him aboard the ship and awakens in tears. The woman finds archival footage of the expedition that had been studying this planet. The team deems the conditions acceptable, and though they do not particularly long for Earth, they acknowledge that adjusting to the local landscapes will be difficult. Soon, the astronauts discover the source of the anomalies Brian had detected from orbit. It turns out to be a massive underground tunnel filled with shimmering, unknown objects. The astronauts realize these are terraforming installations creating the planet's atmosphere. One of the astronauts attempts to measure the depth of the tunnels, but during the descent, an explosion occurs. Bursts of light and whirlwinds of unknown substance shoot into the sky. Rhea, horrified, realizes her comrades are dying. At that moment, Brian enters, and seeing the tablet in her hands, reluctantly admits that the entire mission had gone missing. Rhea demands answers. After all this time spent on the brink of madness, he had known that the planet was being prepared for colonization. He claims that his mission was specifically to monitor her, and he insists that despite her memory loss, she remains fundamentally the same. Therefore, their priority is to escape first and then sort everything out. Unexpectedly, Rhea confesses that she killed everyone without understanding why, and that she cannot leave the station. She realizes that the patches help her recover her memories, but Brian admits that he does not trust her current mental state. Their mission is to save humanity. They have discovered technology capable of altering entire planets. This could change the fate of their entire race. Thus, completing the mission must remain their highest priority. In 2 hours and 39 minutes, they must launch, no matter what. Rhea has no choice but to obey. She begins gathering her belongings when Brian appears and replaces her patch, promising to return before departure. After he leaves, Rhea is overwhelmed by her longest memory yet. She sees herself in the laboratory, attacked by a deranged Adhi. She tries to defend herself, but he is too strong, his face twisted into a hideous grimace. Grabbing a pair of scissors, Rhea frantically stabs the astronaut's body. Suddenly, her strength leaves her, and she collapses onto a bed. Bloodied, distorted faces of her crewmates flash before her eyes, and she realizes that the infection was widespread. She calls out for Brian to report her discovery, but receives no response. Searching for him, she moves through the ship and finds Brian's lifeless body on the floor. Horrified, Rhea runs away, only to encounter Clark in a spacesuit. Grabbing a blowtorch, she directs the flame at her friend, setting the suit on fire. Clark shoves Rhea aside and activates the fire suppression system, then advances on her unharmed. A desperate struggle ensues. Clark locks Rhea inside the shower cabin, but Rhea grabs a hose, forces it into Clark's helmet, and floods it with water. Clark drowns. Rhea drags Clark's body to the medical bay and initiates a scan, but the bot detects no injuries beyond lung damage from drowning. At that moment, the AI announces that the launch window to orbit is open. Rhea discards another black bag into the wasteland outside and gazes at a sparkling star above, their main ship, still awaiting the crew in orbit. Returning to the station, she tries to start the launch sequence. After failing, she applies 2 patches to her neck at once and recalls Brian. The bot scans his body and reports that he died 51 hours ago, something that should be impossible. Suddenly, the security system signals anomalous activity and the detection of an unknown life form. Rhea searches the ship again and finds a living Brian, realizing it is the infection animating his body. Unexpectedly, Brian promises to show her something that will make her understand everything. Her memories take her back to the moment when the astronauts returned to the station with a newly discovered substance found in one of the compartments. Rhea hears her friends discussing the takeover of the station by an unknown life form, which had likely been studying them, waiting for the right moment to strike. When Adhi suggests abandoning the station immediately to save the mission, Rhea becomes agitated, for they had discovered what millions of astronauts had only dreamed of: extraterrestrial life. Moreover, this discovery could facilitate planetary colonization. Humanity could now inhabit new worlds without fearing hostile atmospheres. Wearing a protective suit, she enters the contaminated compartment and collects a sample. Study reveals it to be a technology composed of self-replicating organisms. Suddenly, the sample escapes its container and attacks Adhi. Rhea watches in horror as a tentacled creature burrows into his body through his nose. Adhi's face contorts, and he tries to kill her. The rest of the team rushes to her cries. Clark tries to drag Rhea away while Kevin inspects Adhi, who suddenly attacks him. In a desperate struggle, Kevin kills Adhi, but the parasite immediately transfers into Kevin's body. Now Kevin attacks Rhea. Clark, still in her suit, tries to shield her, but Kevin savagely beats her until Brian appears, frozen in shock. Kevin turns his attention toward Brian, giving Rhea enough time to fit a helmet on Clark and send her toward the escape pod. Unexpectedly, Kevin speaks to Rhea, and she pleads for forgiveness for what she is about to do. Watching Kevin mutate before her, she plunges a knife into his chest. The creature leaves his body and enters Rhea through the wound on her temple. Rhea feels the presence of an alien mind within her. The AI announces parasite activity. A red alien organism pulses inside her head. Rhea realizes she can hear its voice. It claims the planet as its own and vows not to allow humanity to take it. They intend to make Rhea part of their legion. She refuses to join the alien collective, tears off her patches, and rushes to the medical bay. After an examination, the parasite is located inside her head, and Rhea agrees to have it removed. During the procedure, her heart stops, but the medical robot revives her while eliminating the parasite. Suddenly, Brian mutates, tentacles sprouting from his head, and he lunges at her. Rhea stabs him with a knife, but the creature keeps attacking. She grabs the blowtorch and incinerates him. The station erupts into flames. Clad in a protective suit, Rhea evacuates the burning vessel. Reaching the escape pod, she activates the engines and sets course for the main ship, her heart heavy with memories of her fallen comrades. The film skillfully blends elements of cosmic horror and psychological thriller, making the viewer question the reality of unfolding events. Masterful direction, outstanding acting, and an oppressive atmosphere create a gripping and unforgettable experience.